What's up? Summer here. A few weeks ago, I posted a bunch of images for my Adobe Lightroom road trip to Joshua Tree, and I put a poll in my Instagram stories asking you all which of all the images I posted you would most like to see me edit via video. Here's the top 3. This image came in number 3. This image came in number 2. While this image came in number 1. This is my edited image, and I'm just going to try to be as quick as possible so I don't lose your attention and do a quick edit. This is probably the most simple edit out of the 3. So here we go. This is my straight out of camera. I'm always going to start by just bringing up my exposure ever so slightly. That looks pretty good. And then usually I correct my white balance, get it as close to how I think I want it by eye. That looks pretty good. Second thing I'm going to do is I have a set of presets here that I've created over the years that I use on my images. This is the one that I most use. If you're interested in downloading this, you can head over to my Lightroom discovery file on this image and download it, and then you can apply it to your own images. It just gives me a base and it really saves me a lot of time, but of course every image needs to be tweaked. But as you can see already, it looks pretty dang good. So there we have that. I'm going to bring down some blacks a little bit. I'm going to bring down some shadows. Next thing I'm going to do is add a radial gradient to the sky. Now that's really intense, but I like that you can see where it is. And I'm just going to bring it up. And you can see the more you spread it out, the more it feathers between here and here, right? And I'm going to straighten it. Feather it just a little bit more. And now I'm going to push Option Command and reset all of these. I'll bring down my exposure ever so slightly. I'm going to bring down the shadows ever so slightly. Let's try contrast. Highlights. You can see if I bring those down, what that does. And then you can really even just affect the color of that blue. If you want it to be a little more blue, you can go clear over there. That's too intense for me. But I always like to really push those sliders over so you can see what the effect it creates as you push. And then I want to up my saturation just a little bit. Okay, that right there is looking pretty good. Next thing is the tone curve. You can see my preset already applied a really nice tone curve, and it looks pretty dang good. So I'm not going to mess with it. Tone curves are so powerful. I always recommend, I even have just tone curves only here if I want to hand edit something just to give me a base, right? And then again, every image needs to be tweaked. Okay, the HSL panel is my favorite. Again, I have this base started already. I always start with hue. I tend to, generally speaking, move my yellows a little more towards orange. You can see exactly here what I'm talking about. I always, always, always move my blues towards aqua. In pretty much every photo that I take that has a lot of blue in it, I find that when you have consistent tones in your colors, consistent hues is a better word, it will unify your portfolio. So if you look at my website, you'll see that most of my images have this shade of blue. And even if there's different light, the editing unifies all of these images. And I'm going to leave all of that there. That all looks really good. I'm really happy with the color, actually. Super cool tool, the targeted adjustment tool. If you wanted to see, for instance, what color is this? You can just slide it and it will show you exactly which hue slider that you need to use, which is kind of cool. And it does the same thing with, for instance, no matter where you paint. Say you wanted to skin tones, it's great on. But here, this will show you if you wanted it to be more green, more, this shows you also what hue that is. So it's really kind of a cool tool. Saturation all looks good. A lot of times I bring my green saturations down. There's not a lot of green in this image, so I'm going to bring them up. Luminance, you can see there's here where that luminance lies. It's in that rock, right? Or where the orange luminance lies. I'm going to leave it about there. Blues, do I want to bring it down and make them more intense? That looks pretty good. And probably yellows are affected too. Leave that there. And then we have color grading, which is a relatively new tool in Lightroom. It's my favorite. I always use it really mildly. You can see I'm not using it here in the highlights. I'm using it ever so slightly in the mid-tone, just adding a little bit of yellow. This here, you can slide that all the way around, or you can use the slider, right? But I'm going to leave it about there. A warm yellow, ever so slight saturation, and then the luminance can really have an effect also, but I'm liking how it's looking. And then blending looks good as well. And then shadows, same thing. And this can show you exactly, if you push on that button, see how really that's not even doing anything. But the mid-tones, it's ever so slightly. You can see if I up the saturation that it makes more of a difference, which that's terrible. So, but this is a great tool. And then the next thing, Option Command Mask, slide it all the way over so that it only sharpens the parts that were white. Don't really need noise reduction. I'm going to enable profile corrections to see if I like that, but I think I'm going to leave it like this. I like a slight vignette so that it draws your attention inward. I just sort of always click that, even though I don't have any chromatic aberration. And I love my composition, so I don't need to crop anything. This image here, as you can see, my daughter was climbing on these rocks, and I loved this rock and how interesting looking it was with all the sky. And, you know, mostly she was down here and she wasn't standing out. So I really wanted her to be up here on the skyline as I was shooting. And as she started to walk up here, she was, hiking up to here, and I asked her just to stop for a second so I could make sure that I got that shot of her right here in this little V area. So it was quite strategic. All right, then. Hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have questions in the comments. Until next time.